Well, when the boys came home, since they were twins, they came home at about a month and a half, 2 months of age. We had noticed that Matthew wasn't developing physically like Andrew was. He wasn't able to hold his head up, wasn't able to roll over, whereas Andrew had started doing some of those activities. So we had spoken to the doctors, which we had numerous ones, and no one really seemed to have an answer as to exactly what had happened. And we didn't have the cerebral palsy diagnosis till probably approximately 9 months. Because we just wanted an answer truthfully. We wanted to know exactly what had happened, just so that we had a better feel what was going on with Matthew.
Because we truly weren't getting answers of what happened to him.
Well, I have a friend of mine that has a daughter that has cerebral palsy, and he had suggested to me, he says, hey, it doesn't hurt to check into some things. And he had given me the attorney's number, and I had made a phone call, and pretty much that attorney was just asking me questions, real short questions, and then basically wanted me to do a lot of the footwork, which I had no idea how to do. He wanted me to find out, see the doctor, find out, have them tell you what's really wrong with them. And I'm like, but isn't that why I would hire you? So when I hung up the phone, I told my wife that, well, this attorney doesn't seem to want to help, and he wants me to do a lot of the work, which I don't know how to do and how to get the answers. So Jamie had mentioned that.
And then I looked up attorneys and found ABC Law Centers, and then it was Reiter and Walsh, and I had emailed them, and they contacted us right away that same day and sat on the phone with me probably about an hour and a half that day and asked general questions. And then we just went from there, and they were great, kept us updated, and just went to work for us.
They kept us informed. They called us. They started saying, hey, this is what we're seeing. These are what we got from the lab results from all the doctors. There was a couple little things that they had read that we didn't know that the doctors had never told us about. And it seemed like they just kept digging, and they never just gave up. And they tried to get us the answers, but in points and times during the discovery process, they said, hey, we don't have an answer for this. It could be this or it could be that, or based on our experience. So they laid it out to us. Basically, they said, hey, here's what we know, here's what we think, here's what we don't know. And they just kept going forward with all that until they could try to get the answers for us.
And we're honest.
And they were very honest. If they said that they had an issue with something, they just said, hey, this is an issue, or we can't really get an answer for this.
But we're going to work to figure it out. They just didn't say, we don't have an answer, so, that's it. They just kept working for that answer for us also.
Working with the attorneys, Reiter was very professional, so was Miss Walsh. They were always polite, cordial, a very good work staff. They were never short with us. After any meeting we might have, or even phone conversations, they took the time to sit there and answer whatever questions we had. We never felt rushed. We never felt like we were asking too many questions. They were just very, very nice. Almost felt like family. And then we did have a meeting where the whole family came down so they could meet us, and that was very pleasurable because, once again, there was no rush. Every appointment we ever had to have, unless it was a court date, was always flexible. They're like, hey, here, this is the dates we have. If that doesn't work for you, what works for you? For like Matthew. And the earlier in the morning we do things, the better Matthew is. Because as the day goes on, he gets tired, he gets cranky. So they said, what works for you? Plus, it was a long ride for us, so we would work around traffic. It wasn't like they said, hey, you know what? We've got plans this day. You need to be here at 9 a.m. It was always like, what's going to work for you?
Well, now since the settlement, we're able to, and now we're building a house that will be handicapped equipped for Matthew, and he'll always be able to stay in that house and have help come in when we're gone. But he also now has a bathroom off of his bedroom that is shower. That'll be a lot easier to give him a shower instead of a bath because he's getting bigger. So that was a big load off our shoulders. And since we're getting older, we are able now to get a nanny / babysitter so that we, as husband and wife, can go out more on dates that we haven't been able to do in a long time because of not having people that are able to sit with Matthew because of feeding him by tube and medicines by tube for him to sleep at night.
With this settlement, though, we're able to get him some little extra nice little things. Like we're going to be purchasing his own little recliner. It's a handicap recliner. It has a deeper seat so that instead of him having to sit in his wheelchair or have to lay on the floor, he could sit on the couch. Like we'll play with him and he'll sit between us, but now he can actually have his own chair that he can sit in instead of having to sit in a wheelchair. And it's more comfortable. A couple other things we were looking into is hopefully trying to find some type of bicycle where we can put him in the bike, where we can go for bike rides instead of having to just push his wheelchair, because the wheelchair has smaller wheels. It's not made for all the bumps and everything. The settlement's allowing us to have a new home built, as my wife stated, that he's going to stay in. He's going to get to stay in that house even if my wife and I pass, and then people will come in to take care of him. I don't have to worry what's going to happen to him if we're no longer around to take care of him. And also with the nanny, allows us time to get out, even though we're still both working 2 jobs, and we plan on working 2 jobs. It just makes it easier. We don't have to worry about like, hey, you got to get this day off because I have to go into work early. It just makes it easier and less stressful. I mean, you're always going to worry about your son. We worry about Andrew too, but it's just nice knowing that we have some leeway. We have where you don't have to worry like, oh my God, we can't do this because we got to save every single penny. We're still saving, we're still budgeting, but it's not the stress of where are we going to get this extra money that we're going to need in 20 years. Our experience with ABC Law Centers is that they're more family orientated, they're very polite, and even though we had only called one other attorney, they were there for you. They were willing to listen to you, and they didn't force you on anything. It wasn't like they said, oh, if we send you this packet, you have to stay with us. You know, you may decide later on down the line you don't want to do anything. It's just that there's no pressure with Reiter and Walsh. They're there to answer your questions, and they're more than willing to help you out.